So,
Zohran Mamdani.
But the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares, and that's something that we would do in partnership with Albany. And I put forward two proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
Ooh. What a jerk. Oh, my God.
I promise to give you free bus rides.
Free this, free
that. Government runs stores.
Yep. Remember? Oh, yeah, that's right. Whatever happened to that? He was gonna close down all these supermarkets and make them government stores.
Government to help everybody.
To help everybody.
So now, by the way, the bus fares went up. They're not free, and they went up. That's the first mistake he made. That was his first campaign promise: free buses for everybody. And then the rates went up. Like 3 weeks after he was in office. He's in what, 2 months, 3 months now? Right? Yep. And all this shit, all his promises, right? Yep. So he promises all this, not going to raise taxes. He only wants to tax the rich. Now, Governor Hochul, he's putting a shitload of pressure on her to approve all these tax rate hikes to businesses and rich people, which he's not giving in to that. So now he's panicking because now he has no way, after he figured all this out on his blackboard, it's not going to work now.
Not going to work.
Right? So,
and the garbage doesn't get picked up.
Right.
Snow's not removed. When the snow melted, they found poop and everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, right.
The garbage is all.
So now, when he claimed that he was not going to raise property taxes, that was part of his whole thing. People were like, yeah, Mamdani, let's do it. No property taxes. Well, guess what?
Mayor, with the greatest respect, in every campaign speech, in every debate where you engage, we opened our ears to listen. Now today, accept the words echoing from us now. Do your job as mayor and leave our taxes out.
Giving only two options. You're saying if we don't tax the rich, then I got to increase property taxes. We are not a pawn in Southeast Queens. We are not part of your negotiation tactics. Mayor Zohran Mamdani, you are out your goddamn mind.
There might be, last resort, 9.5% on property taxes. Now, you renters think you're going to get away with murder? That ain't going to happen. Because the property tax goes up on the landlords, you're going to get hit with higher rent.
The 9.5% hike would generate $3.7 billion
in
fiscal year 2027 and hit over 3 million homes.
Right.
Plus 100,000 commercial properties.
Imagine.
And, commercial properties, that's like the mom and pop store on the pizza shop.
That's right.
They're all getting raised.
Yep. Mamdani calls it the last resort and says he does not want to do it. But, he refers to the level of tax the rich. Now, here's the problem. When you own a little store like that, or you're living in New York and you don't have a lot of money, you end up paying this 9.5% if he decides to implement this. If you're rich, you say, see you, asshole, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And they move because they got the money to do that. They can go anywhere they want to go. You own $1 million apartment in New York City, you can buy $1 million house in Miami and go there. Now, people are already leaving, they're saying. They're moving to Texas and Florida. Sure. But there's no taxes at all.
And Tennessee, I think. Tennessee's the other big state. Yep.
So this guy promised all these people, and they all voted him in. Now, It definitely going to affect the middle class. And there are people on the street of color, if I might say that. Mm-hmm. And talk about a peaceful protest. It was peaceful protesting. Yeah, they didn't burn down the city. They're not doing any of this shit.
Burn down anything. They didn't throw.
And they were some of color, mixed color, whatever. Yeah. Very intelligent people are saying, what are you doing to us? Don't touch our property. Yeah. And they're out there protesting with the bullhorns and the whole thing because they voted him based on what he told them, and it was all a freaking lie. Yep. It was all a lie.
Doesn't work. Stuff like that doesn't work. And everybody tried to tell. I'm not a big fan of Andrew Cuomo, but I'm telling you, he should have been mayor. Out of the three candidates, now I know Curtis Lee was very to the right, but he was a little bit of a hothead and all that. But he was actually, I thought, would be very good. But Andrew Cuomo had experience as governing and this, that, and the other thing. He would have made a much better mayor than this guy would. is. I mean,
Well, he had the experience too, and
Yeah.
knows the budgets and knows
Yep.
what the.
knows what to do, how to do it, who to talk to, get things done.
Well, to be fair to Mamdani, he never ran a business in his life. So how do you?
And did you hear that
How do you run a
in
city?
Times Square, this imam was chanting infidels or something like that? Oh yeah, it was on TV. Yeah, they were chanting. They were talking about how we have the city now. We have our
Oh,
their
my God.
Muslim imams and all
Really?
these people.
And that's
Yeah,
what
it
everybody
was
warned about.
If you look it up, it's in Times Square. And he's yelling and screaming and talking about how now we have the city, we could do what we want.
You know this.
Now, what is this guy Mamdani going to do when 9/11 comes around, the anniversary in
Oh,
September?
God, that's
is he
a good
going to be
question.
there? He didn't show up for the new cardinal that came to
Oh, yeah.
after Dolan stepped down. I think his name is it Hicks? I think. He didn't show up for that. Every mayor always showed up when a new cardinal comes in or something. He didn't show up for that.
Well, that's a good question. And what, we forgot about 9/11 already? Apparently we did. I hope not. That was the worst attack on U.S. soil. And it was these radical.
He doesn't show up
Islamists.
for that. Oh, boy.
Oh, I know. Especially the families, the 3,000 people. Are you kidding me? They got New York already has one of the highest tax rates in the United States. 1.45, nearly doubling the national average of New York already. $12,400 in New York City for a basic tax bill. That's crazy.
And what's this number 3 is going to raise the rents for renters?
Yeah, because the landlords who own the building, if he comes out with this 9.5% property tax,
They got to raise the rent.
yeah, they got to pay the tax. They got to raise the rent.
But I thought he was going to do like a freeze and everything, and because he's on the renter side.
Can't do a freeze. He
can't.
doesn't have the power to do the freeze.
Right.
Nobody said anything about that. He doesn't have the whole power to do all that. And now, how do the guys that own the building, all right, they have just enough to make a little bit of a living, and they got 5 tenants, 6 tenants, whatever it is. Now he comes in and raises property taxes by 10%, which is $12,000 a year or more,
Right.
or more. Now, where's he going to get that money? He's got to get it from the renters.
Right.
So these renters, and in New York City, there's tons of renters.
Tons of renters, yeah.
And usually it's the middle class that are renting because they can't afford anything in New York. I mean, I remember joking around with my wife. I said, I wouldn't mind having a little apartment up above Little Italy, up in there. We went to look at this little apartment. It wasn't as big as what we're sitting in,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, my niece.
And it was $1,800 a month, and that was 5 years ago.
My niece had to move out. I mean, she's a photographer in the city. She had to move out. She couldn't afford it. She says my rent, and we were there. 1 bedroom, little tiny living room. It was $5,000 a month.
That is so.
She says I can't do it. It was actually like $4,800.
Right.
She says I can't do it anymore. I can't.
She
And
has
that
to
was
have-
before he came in.
She has to have 2 roommates minimum.
Well, she did. She had a roommate, but then she moved out. She
Oh, yeah.
she had to go back to England. But she says I can't afford $4,800 a month on a 1 bedroom.
Oh my
I mean,
isn't that ridiculous? And it's nothing spectacular, I'm sure.
It's just that you're living in the
In
city.
the city, I know. I mean, I wouldn't mind being rich enough to have.
Oh,
an
I
apartment.
would too. If I had all the money in the world,
Yeah.
yes, I would get something in the city. I would, no doubt about
Just
it.
to
I would
have
love
it.
Just to have it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That and a house in Florida in the winter.
Oh God, would I love that?
So maybe that's coming.
And have a Ferrari.
Ferrari. You can have the Ferrari. I'll do a McLaren because I don't want a copy. No, a Lamborghini actually is what I wanted.
Yeah, I don't want to. I wouldn't want
The
a
Aventador.
Ferrari. I would want.
Yeah, Ferraris are
Oh,
beautiful.
I would love.
I wanted Aventador.
What's it called?
Aventador. Lamborghini. Aventador. Oof. It's the name of another bull.
Oh.
So this guy's breaking campaign promises all over and got a lot of people upset. A lot of people on YouTube talking about it. A lot of these channels like us said, you know what? Fox News, all these people warned you about this before you voted him in, and we gave you some updates and
Well,
heads up.
He
and
got the young
listen.
vote. They don't know what they're.
That's the
Go
problem.
out and like when we do on the ground.
Yeah.
When weather comes out. You ask young people.
Yeah.
Some history, or they don't know.
Yeah.
Who was the president in 1962? Mamdani.
Yeah. Yeah. Dummy.
They don't know. Howard Stern.
Howard Stern. Yeah.
You know, they don't know.
Do you know who I am? No. Here's Johnny.
Yeah.
No, it's true. To some of the simplest questions, too.
Simplest questions they don't know. They don't. All this is what they know.
Yeah, I know.
They just sit there on their phones.
But they also, this guy isn't good in social media. So
Oh, he is,
what do you
yeah.
think they're seeing?
Yeah, they're seeing him.
Every day. They're seeing him.
He's only what, 33, 34?
Yeah, young guy.
God, my oldest daughter's older than him. Jeez.
Yeah. Right?
Yours too. Don't you have daughters that are older than 34?
Yeah, Amanda's 36, Joe's 35.
Yeah.
Crazy. So here's a So this is funny as shit.
Oh, it is. I know what you're going to talk about.
All right. So you know this fight that's going on voter ID. By the way, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Very important because we did a little piece on this about voter ID and how the Dems are just fighting us on voter ID. So Zohran, they call him, right? Mamdani? Is that his first name? Zohran?
Zohran Mamdani.
So what he did was he wanted volunteers to come and help dig out the snow because they had got 2 feet out there, 30-something inches in Central Park.
Yeah.
So he calls for volunteers. Now, of course, he's a Democrat. We know that. And he doesn't want voter ID. You know, everybody wants these illegals to vote so they get in again. That's why they hate ICE, because they're taking away every vote that they pull out of the country. Right. There's another vote gone. There he goes. Some lady's crying, they took my husband. Another vote's gone. You know? So he gets these people. He's going to run the pro. He's going to pay them, volunteer, $19 to $28 an hour, which was great. Then he raised it to $30 because the snow was really ridiculous. So he wants to pay these people through him, through New York. And guess what you need to sign up? Any ideas?
I know you need a Social Security card.
You need 2 forms of ID.
2 forms of ID.
Minimum.
But yet you don't need that. You don't need any of that
to vote. Right. You don't have to prove you're a citizen, but you got to prove
Well, he's saying, from what I understand, he's saying because he wants to pay them $25 or $30 an hour.
Yeah.
He wants to pay them, and he says, "I need that information."
Oh, is that the loophole?
I guess
that makes sense.
It does make sense. You don't need all that info. All you really need is a Social Security number, and that's about it.
You can write him a check for cash.
Yeah, you could. Wow, yeah.
There goes the deficit. He's going to pay everybody $30 an hour now to shovel snow. But I just thought it was funny that now 2 forms of ID. Now the Social Security card, yeah, I guess because you got to get paid. That makes sense, right? But
I just do taxes or whatever.
But why don't you have to prove citizenship to vote? I don't know. Yeah, taxes, whatever it is. But why don't you just pay him cash under the table? Here you go. Then you don't have to do all this paperwork.
Right.
But it just struck me funny that he was.
Yeah, that he needs. You need an ID.
2 forms of ID.
You don't need ID to vote.
Right.
Typical left. I swear to God, they're so screwed up. Did you see? Well, speaking of Mamdani, did you see how he handled this snowball fight with the cops?
Oh, by the way, I saw that. That was so bad. I
couldn't believe it. And
I
I really praise the cops because they didn't blow their top.
Right.
Don't hit the microphone.
Sorry about that.
I really praise the cops because they didn't blow their top, or they handled it real professionally. They were throwing, and they asked Mamdani.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just a snowball fight. It was no big deal.
That was so disrespectful.
That was they were taking snowballs,
pelting him
in 2 feet away and hitting him in the face.
I know. And the cops, I don't know how they didn't lose it. Now, did anybody get arrested for that? That's assault on an officer.
Well, luckily they do have. Nobody did, but they are going to track them down. Supposedly the DA in New York, whatever her name is, said she's gonna try to press charges.
Because they're probably all on body cams, and there was people taking video all over the place.
Yep. Yeah, and they're right out in the middle of the open there. I'm looking at it right now.
Right.
But just terrible. And did you see this?